The great throne room of the alien palace was silent. Every eye was on the human man standing at the center. His name was Jonas, a soldier, a traveler, a man with no titles, yet here he stood, before the powerful Queen of Virella, the ruler of this alien world. To his right, guards stood tall with their sharp staffs. To his left, nobles whispered among themselves, curious and confused, and behind the queen's throne, hidden in shadows, was her daughter, the alien princess. The queen raised one hand and spoke with a smile. "You may approach," she said, her voice calm. Jonas walked forward, eyes focused, steps firm. But when he stopped, he did not bow, he did not kneel, nor did he greet the princess. He simply stood still, silent, with a cold, unreadable face. The nobles gasped. Some took a step back, thinking a fight would break out. Even the guards tightened their grip on their weapons. But the queen did not show anger. She tilted her head and asked, "Human, do you not find my daughter beautiful?" Jonas looked at the shadowed figure behind the throne. The princess was tall, slender, with smooth purple skin and long silver hair. Her eyes were bright gold, yet filled with something strange, something sad. Jonas looked for a moment, then looked away. "I don't look at faces first," he said quietly. "I look at the pain they carry." The queen narrowed her eyes. "And what pain do you think she carries?" Jonas didn't speak right away. He slowly turned toward the princess. "I don't know yet," he said, "but I know she hides something, and I know it's heavy." The room fell into complete silence. The princess blinked, her golden eyes wide. She stepped back slightly, almost as if his words had touched something deep inside her. A few nobles laughed nervously, unsure if this was insult or insight. The queen leaned back on her throne, eyes sharp. "I see. You are not like other humans," she said. "You were invited to speak, to be honored. Yet you bring riddles." Jonas shrugged. "I didn't come to lie," he said simply. The queen's eyes narrowed, but then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed, a cold, curious laugh that made the nobles freeze. "Very well," she said. "You will stay in the palace for 1 week. You will have access to the gardens, the halls, and the tower rooms. But your main task will be this. Spend time with my daughter. If you claim to see pain, then look closely." Jonas looked up, cautious. "And if I find the reason?" he asked. The queen smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Then perhaps I'll believe humans can do more than destroy." That night, Jonas was given a room in the guest wing of the palace. It was large, clean, and cold like everything. In the palace, he sat on the edge of the alien-designed bed, staring at the wall. He wasn't here by accident. He had heard whispers of a silent princess, a royal girl who hadn't spoken in years. He came because something about her silence reminded him of someone he once failed to save. As the night grew darker, Jonas heard soft footsteps outside his door. He opened it quietly and found the princess walking alone in the hallway. She didn't see him at first. Her head was down, her arms wrapped around herself. Jonas didn't speak, just watched. She stopped in front of a small window, stared out at the stars, and whispered to herself. But he could only catch one word: trapped. The next day, Jonas followed her at a distance. She walked through the gardens, touched no flowers, smiled at no one. The servants bowed, but she didn't respond. She was not a proud royal, she was lost. In the evening, Jonas tried to speak to her in the hall. "I heard you whisper last night," he said. She turned quickly, startled. For a second, he thought she'd run. But then she spoke. Her voice was soft, broken, like dry leaves in the wind. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "They're watching me." Jonas stepped closer. "Who's watching you?" he asked. The princess looked around, her golden eyes full of fear. She shook her head and turned away, walking fast. Jonas stood in the hallway alone, her words echoing in his ears. "They're watching me. You shouldn't be here." He knew now this wasn't just a sad girl. This was a prisoner, and the palace wasn't her home. It was her cage. He whispered to himself. "I came to find the truth, And now I can't walk away. Jonas woke up. Early the next morning, the palace was quiet. Too quiet for a place so big and full of life. The servants walked like ghosts, always in silence, eyes low. It felt like everyone was afraid to speak too loudly, as if someone might be listening from the shadows. Jonas stepped into the hallway. The air was cold, and the walls were smooth black stone. He passed the guards, who said nothing. He passed nobles who only stared. He looked for the princess, but she was nowhere in sight. Then he remembered her whisper from the night before. "They're watching me. You shouldn't be here." Jonas had seen war. He had seen real fear. The fear in her voice was not fake. It was the voice of someone who had learned to survive by staying quiet. He asked a servant, "Where is the princess today?" The servant looked up, frightened. "She walks the garden path at sunrise, but no one is allowed to speak to her, by the queen's order." Jonas nodded and thanked her. But he had no plan to stay silent. He walked to the garden. The sun was rising behind the distant purple mountains. The flowers here were strange and beautiful, glowing with soft blue light. And there she was, the princess, alone, again, walking slowly along the stone path. Her hands touched nothing. Her face showed no joy. It was like watching a living ghost. Jonas didn't call her name. He didn't want to scare her. Instead, he followed from a distance. He watched the way she avoided the tall trees, the way her eyes darted to the corners of the garden, like she was being hunted, even in her own home. He noticed something strange. There were cameras hidden in the vines, small devices blinking red, almost invisible. He counted 5 in just one section of the garden. Jonas whispered to himself, "She's right. They really are watching her." Later, he returned to his room. Something felt off. He searched the walls, the floor, even the ceiling, and finally found a small black circle hidden in a crack. A listening device. He smiled bitterly. So the queen wanted him to talk, but also to listen. He sat on the bed and said loudly, "Nice weather today, isn't it?" Then he stood and whispered near the window, "But I won't play your game." That night, he heard something again, a sound soft and quiet, like a child crying. It came from the wall behind his bed. He pressed his ear to the stone and listened. Sobs, soft and broken. He followed the sound to a hallway nearby, and found a locked door. No markings, no guards, just silence. He knocked once, no answer. Then he waited, and after a long minute, the door opened, just a little, a single golden eye peeked out. It was her, the princess. She was crying, but her face was strong, like she had learned to cry without making a sound. Jonas didn't move. "I heard you," he said. She looked down, ashamed. "I don't want to cry," she whispered. "But I can't stop it." He nodded. "I understand you're not weak. You're surviving." She looked up, confused. "No one ever says that," she whispered. He asked, "Why are you locked in here?" She opened the door wider and let him in. The room was small, not royal at all. Just a bed, a table, and a few old drawings taped to the wall. The drawings showed her in a cage. One showed her with a mask over her mouth. Another showed a hand huge and shadowy pushing her down. Jonas stared. "Did you draw these?" She nodded. "It helps me speak when I can't use words." Jonas asked carefully, "Who is hurting you?" She shook her head fast. "I can't say. They'll hear. They'll punish me, and maybe you too." Jonas sat on the floor. "I don't care," he said. "You don't deserve this." She looked at him for a long time, then whispered, "There's a servant, an old one. He knows the truth. He was my nurse when I was a baby. He's the only one who helps me. Sometimes he brings me paper to draw." Jonas nodded. "I need to meet him," she hesitated, then said, "He comes at midnight, through the garden tunnel, but if the queen finds out, he will vanish too." That night, Jonas stayed awake. He hid behind the garden wall and waited. At midnight, the old servant appeared, just like she said. He looked around carefully, then stepped into the shadows. Jonas followed. "Stop," the old alien said in a whisper. "I know who you are. I warned her not to trust you." Jonas raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt her. I want to help." The old servant looked at him with tired eyes. "She doesn't need your help. She needs to escape." "Why?" Jonas asked. "Tell me the truth," the servant sighed. "She is not the queen's real daughter." Jonas froze. "What?" The servant nodded. "She was taken. Years ago, a royal child. Yes, but from another planet. The queen keeps her locked because she's the last of a rival bloodline, and if she speaks the truth, the whole kingdom will fall." Jonas looked up at the palace windows. The princess was more than just sad. She was a key to a truth that could shake the empire. He clenched his fists. "I'm not leaving this world without her." Jonas couldn't sleep, even after the old servant left through the shadows. His words stayed in Jonas's mind. "She's not the queen's real daughter. She's the last of a rival bloodline." Jonas sat by the window, looking out at the alien moon. The princess, locked away, lonely and broken, was not just a girl in pain. She was a secret, a living danger to the throne, and the queen had kept her hidden all these years. At breakfast, Jonas sat in the royal dining hall. The queen entered in full armor, gold, silver, and sharp edges. She smiled at the nobles, laughed softly at their jokes, but when she saw Jonas, her smile faded. "You look tired," she said, walking toward him. "Too many dreams or too many questions?" Jonas gave a small smile. "Both," he answered. "I dreamt about a girl with golden eyes who forgot how to live." The queen paused. "Strange dream. Some dreams are dangerous, you know." Jonas looked her straight in the eye. "Only when they carry truth." The queen stared at him for a moment, then laughed lightly. "Careful, human. Truth is sharp. And this palace does not like bleeding." Later that day, Jonas walked the garden path again. This time, the princess was not alone. She sat on a stone bench with a small book in her lap. She didn't look up when Jonas came near. He sat beside her, not too close. "Nice day," he said. She nodded, silent. He waited, then whispered, "I met him. Your old nurse. He told me everything." The princess's hands froze. The book slipped from her fingers. "No," she whispered. "You shouldn't have done that." "They'll punish him. They'll punish you too." Jonas leaned closer. "I had to know. You're not just sad, you're stolen." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't remember my real home. I only know it's gone. The queen took me as a baby, raised me like a pet, told me to smile, to stay quiet. But I knew I didn't belong." Jonas asked, "Why haven't you tried to run?" She looked at the sky. "Where would I go?" "I don't even know who I really am." Jonas stood. "Then let's find out." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He whispered, "There's a locked room in the queen's tower. The old servant said there might be proof inside about your bloodline. Let's go there tonight." That night, under moonlight, they crept through the palace. Jonas knew the path. The princess wore a hood, her steps quiet like rain. Guards stood near the tower, but they didn't stop Jonas. They thought he was just wandering like before. They didn't notice the silent girl walking beside him. The tower door was locked. Jonas pulled out a small tool he had hidden in his boot. A gift from a smuggler friend on Mars. It clicked, twisted, and the door opened slowly. Inside, dust covered everything. Old books, scrolls, and glowing crystals sat in glass cases. The air smelled of secrets and forgotten history. They found a metal box with strange markings. The princess touched it, and it lit up with golden light. Jonas stepped back. "Is that yours?" She nodded slowly. "It's from my people. Only my blood can open it." The box opened with a soft sound. Inside was a small orb, glowing faint blue. She picked it up, and a voice filled the room, gentle and deep. "To the child of House Varelian, you are the last of the flame, hidden from the war, protected by shadows. One day you will rise, and the stars will bow again." The orb dimmed. The princess fell to her knees. Shaking, Jonas knelt beside her. "That's you. Your name, your family, they didn't vanish. They're inside you." She looked at him with tears. My real name is Araya. Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder. Then Araya, it's time to stop hiding. As they left the tower, they didn't know they were being watched. A shadow moved in the darkness. One of the Queen's personal guards had followed them. He raised a communicator and whispered, "They found it. Prepare to silence them both." Back in her secret room, Araya sat by the wall. She held the orb close, as if afraid someone would take it away. Jonas paced the floor. "They'll come for us now. We have to move soon." She looked up. "I'm scared." He sat beside her. "So am I, but you're not alone anymore." She smiled a real smile for the first time, not fake, not polite. A small, true smile of hope. Jonas saw it, and his heart softened. "You don't have to be a princess," he said. "You don't have to be a weapon, just be you," she whispered. "I want to be free." He nodded. "Then let's break the cage." The next morning, the palace felt colder than before. Jonas walked through the grand hall, eyes sharp, ears alert. He knew now he and Araya were being watched. Every guard's stare lasted too long. Every servant's whisper stopped when he got near. He had touched something forbidden, and now the palace wanted to bury it. Jonas went to the Queen's chamber without being called. 2 guards tried to stop him at the door, but he spoke firmly. "Tell the Queen the human brings an answer to her question." A moment later, the heavy doors opened. The Queen sat on her silver throne, surrounded by alien scrolls and maps. She looked amused, but her eyes were sharp as knives. "You walk in like a hero," she said softly. "Have you come to praise my daughter at last?" Jonas stepped forward. "No," he said. "I've come to make a deal." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "A deal? With a guest? Or with a spy?" Jonas stood tall. "I've learned the truth. She's not your daughter. You took her from her real family." The Queen's smile faded. "You speak dangerous words, human," she whispered. "Careful where you walk. The floor beneath you is thin." Jonas didn't move. "If I can make her smile before her 21st moon, I'll leave and never return. But if I fail, you let me take her with me." The room went silent. The guards looked at each other, shocked. Even the Queen seemed caught off guard for just a second. Then she laughed a deep, cold laugh that echoed off the walls. "You think her smile is your victory?" she said. "Very well, Jonas the Bold. You have 3 days until the moon rises." She leaned closer. "But if she cries instead, I will bury you myself." That evening, Jonas found Araya in the hidden room. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees. She looked up when she saw him. "What happened?" she asked. "I made a deal," he said. Araya blinked. "What kind of deal?" Jonas told her everything. Her face turned pale. "You challenged the Queen?" "You could be killed," he nodded. "I know, but I'm tired of seeing you locked in this cage." Araya looked away. "I don't know if I can smile. Not a real smile." Jonas sat beside her. "You smiled once already, remember? That was real." She looked down at her hands. "I forgot what happiness feels like." Jonas whispered, "Then let's remember together." Over the next 2 days, Jonas stayed by her side. They walked the garden. They looked at the stars. He told her stories of Earth, of blue oceans, dancing animals, and chocolate. He gave her a small plant from his room. "This is from Earth," he said. "It's called a sunflower. It always turns toward the light." She stared at it, her fingers gently touching the leaves. "It's soft," she whispered. "Like a baby bird," Jonas smiled. "Life can be soft too. You just haven't had the chance to feel it." On the 3rd night, Araya stood on the palace balcony. The moon was rising, large and silver. Her golden eyes reflected the light. Jonas stood beside her, silent. She turned to him. "I want to leave," she said. "I want to know who I really am. I want to live." He took her hand. "Then let's go." But before they could step away, the door behind them burst open. 3 guards rushed in, weapons drawn. "The Queen changes her mind," one said coldly. "You leave now." Alone, Jonas moved fast. He pulled Araya behind him, but he had no weapon. No armor, just his body and his will. A guard swung at him. Jonas ducked and grabbed the metal pole, using it to block a second strike. They fought across the balcony fast, violent, desperate. Araya screamed, "No, stop it!" Suddenly, bright light flooded the balcony. The queen stepped into view. Followed by nobles and servants, she watched the fight in silence, then raised one hand. "Enough," she said. The guards stepped back. Breathing hard, Jonas stood tall. Blood on his lip, but eyes full of fire, Araya ran to him, grabbing his arm. The queen looked at her daughter. "You would protect him?" she asked, surprised. Araya stood straight. "I would go with him," she said loudly. "For the first time, someone saw me, not as a title, not as a weapon, but as a person." The queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked Jonas, "Tell me, human, why didn't you love her when you first met her?" The crowd grew silent. Everyone leaned in, waiting. Jonas looked at Araya, then back at the queen. "I didn't love her because she wore silence like armor, because her smile was missing, because I didn't know her." He took Araya's hand again. "But I stayed. And I saw her pain, and then I saw her strength, and now I love her for all of it." The queen said nothing for a long time. Then she turned away. "The moon has risen. Your time is done," Jonas nodded. "Then we'll go." He and Araya walked down the palace steps. No one stopped them. No one dared. As they reached the gate, a voice called out from behind. The queen, standing in the moonlight. "Protect her, human," she said softly. "She may be your light, but she was once my shadow." The air outside the palace felt different, colder, freer, and full of new sounds. Jonas and Araya stood at the gates, the stars above them bright and silent. Behind them was the place of chains, secrets, and silence. Ahead of them, unknown lands, but also a chance for life. Jonas looked at Araya. She still held the sunflower in her hand, the petals glowing faintly in the dark. Her golden eyes were wide, filled with fear but also something new, hope. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. She nodded. "I want to feel the world, even if it hurts." They took the small hover train that moved through the royal forest. It was quiet, meant for servants and workers. No guards, no nobles, just old engines and dusty seats. Araya stared out the window, her fingers pressed to the glass. She saw rivers glowing with blue light, animals with wings made of crystal. Everything was strange, beautiful, and alive. Jonas sat beside her, smiling. "You've never seen this, have you?" She shook her head. "No, I wasn't allowed beyond the garden." He handed her a small cube. "This is music from Earth." She pressed it, and soft sounds filled the train. A calm tune with simple notes. Her eyes closed, and for the first time, her lips curved gently. Jonas noticed it. "A smile," he whispered. She opened her eyes, surprised. "Was I smiling?" "Yes," Jonas said, "and it was beautiful." They arrived at a small town far from the palace. It was full of aliens of all shapes and colors working, laughing, living. No one knew who Araya was, and no one cared. Jonas rented a small house. Made of stone and glass, it had 2 rooms, a tiny kitchen, and a balcony with a view of the stars. Araya explored it like a child. She touched the curtains, tested the lights, opened every drawer. Jonas watched her and thought, this is how life begins for her. For both of us, for the next few days. Araya learned how to live. She went to the market. She tried sweet alien fruit and spit it out laughing. She fed a wild bird that landed on her arm and refused to leave. Each night, Jonas made a meal, and each night, Araya told him a little more. About the palace, her drawings, her memories, her fears. One evening, she sat across from him and said, I never thought I'd laugh again. But now I laugh every day. Jonas smiled. You were never broken, Araya, just locked. But peace never lasts for long. One night, Jonas noticed something. A figure standing on the rooftop across the street. Watching their window, unmoving, silent. He didn't say anything to Araya, but the next day, he checked every door twice. He kept a small knife under his pillow. They had escaped the queen's cage, but the eyes of the kingdom were long then. Two things happened. First, Araya received a message. An old man from the palace had died. The message didn't say who, but she knew. "The nurse," she whispered. "They found out he helped me." She wept that night, sitting on the balcony. Jonas held her, saying nothing, because there were no words strong enough. Second, a strange visitor came to their door. A tall alien noble dressed in dark robes. He smiled politely, but his eyes were cold. "I bring greetings from the queen," he said. "She asks for nothing, except that you both stay quiet, live your little life, and never speak of bloodlines." Jonas stepped forward. "And if we don't?" The noble smiled wider. "Then silence will come for you, one way or another." Before he left, he whispered to Araya, "You are free now, little star. Don't burn too brightly, or someone will put you out." That night, Araya was quiet. She sat in the dark, holding the sunflower plant, now blooming with bright yellow. Jonas sat beside her. "I know. You're scared," he said, "but I won't let them take you, not again." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Why do you stay?" she asked. "You could have left after the deal. You were free." Jonas reached out and wiped her cheek. "I stayed because I saw the real you, because your smile changed me." Araya closed her eyes and rested her head on his shoulder. "I don't want to hide anymore, Jonas, but I don't want anyone else to die because of me." He held her hand gently. "Then let's live, not in fear, but in truth," she whispered. "Even if the whole world watches?" He nodded. "Let them watch. Let them see what freedom looks like." The next morning, Araya did something she had never done before. She walked into the town square, stood in the middle, and spoke. "I am Araya, daughter of no queen, child of truth, and I am free." People stopped and listened. Some whispered her name. Some bowed, but many just smiled, because they saw something rare, a royal heart. Finally beating, Jonas stood behind her, proud and far, far away. In the dark halls of the palace, the queen watched the news broadcast, and for the first time, she looked afraid. The sun had not even set when the first sign came. Jonas noticed a small bird fall from the sky. Its feathers were bright green, but its eyes were dull, dead from something poison. Maybe. It landed near their window, a warning inside the small home. Araya stood in the kitchen, humming softly. She wore a simple dress, her hair loose, her feet bare. She looked like a normal girl living a peaceful life, but outside, danger was closing in that evening. The town was too quiet. Shops closed early, streets emptied. Even the wind felt nervous. Jonas checked his communicator. No signals, no messages, cut off. He looked at Araya and said, "Don't sleep tonight. Something's coming." She nodded, her golden eyes calm but sharp. "I feel it too." Jonas locked every window. He placed a knife on the table, a pulse pistol hidden under the couch. He had seen war, and he knew this silence. It was the kind that came before blood. Midnight came, and with it, shadows. 3 figures dropped silently onto their rooftop. Black armor, no symbols, faces covered. Trained killers, not local guards. Jonas was already awake. He heard the soft footsteps on the roof tiles. He grabbed the knife and moved to the bedroom. "Araya," he whispered. She was already sitting up. "I'll go out the back," she said. "You hold them at the front." Jonas shook his head. "No, we stay together." She placed her hand on his. "No, Jonas, you gave me a chance to live. Now let me fight for it too." He stared at her, then nodded. "Be fast, be quiet, if I don't make it." "You will," she said, then kissed his forehead and slipped out the back door. The assassins dropped in through the roof glass, but Jonas was ready. He kicked the table at them, slamming one into the wall. The second rushed forward, blade drawn. Jonas rolled, grabbed the pistol, and fired. A blue pulse hit the assassin's chest, sending him flying, but the third one caught him off guard. A strike to his side, sharp and fast. Jonas fell to his knees, coughing blood. The assassin raised his blade to finish him, but a voice rang out clear and sharp. Stop! It was Araya. She stood at the doorway, her hands glowing with golden energy. The orb she carried had changed her. It responded to her blood, to her will. The assassin turned. "Witch," he growled. "You were meant to die in silence." Araya raised her hands. "You came to kill a broken girl." "But I'm not broken anymore." A burst of light flew from her palms. The assassin screamed as the energy hit him. His armor cracked, his body thrown across the room. The house was quiet again. Jonas lay on the floor, holding his bleeding side. Araya ran to him. "No, no, no, don't leave me now," she cried. Jonas smiled weakly. "You scared him." "More than I ever could." She pressed her hands against his wound. "I won't let you die," she whispered. "I didn't come this far to lose you." By morning, the whole town knew what had happened. The bodies of the assassins were burned. Jonas was taken to a healer's chamber. Araya stayed by his side the whole time. The healer said he'd live, but he needed rest, deep rest, while Jonas slept. Araya stood before the town leaders. She told them everything. Her name, her truth, the Queen's secret, the assassination attempt. One old alien stepped forward and said, "If you stay, they will come again," Araya replied. "Then let them. Come, let them see I am not afraid anymore." Far away, in the royal palace, the Queen stood in silence. A screen in front of her showed Araya's speech to the town. The people cheered her name. They called her Araya the Free, daughter of flame, stubborn truth. The Queen's advisor stepped forward. "She will break the system if she continues." The Queen nodded slowly. "Then we must end her before she becomes a symbol." The advisor hesitated. "She is loved now. If we kill her, the people may rise." The Queen turned. "Then we don't kill her," she said. "We destroy the one she loves." And watch her fall into silence again. Back in the small home, Jonas woke up. Araya was asleep in a chair, her hand holding his. He smiled weakly and whispered, "You're still here." She opened her eyes slowly. "I'm not going anywhere." He looked at her. "You have a choice now, run or rise." She squeezed his hand gently. "I choose to rise." The town was still sleeping when Araya walked to the edge of the cliff. The sky above her was full of stars, silent watchers of her journey. Below, the world stretched wide and free. For the first time, she felt like she could breathe without fear. But peace was always short. She knew that, and so did Jonas. He stood behind her now, still weak, his side wrapped in healing bands, but his eyes were clear, strong. "You don't have to face them alone," he said. Araya turned, her long silver hair moving with the wind. "They'll come for you," she whispered. "They'll come for both of us." Jonas stepped beside her. "Let them. We're not running anymore." Later that morning, a ship arrived in the sky. Big, black and heavy, it came without warning, no message, no sound. The townspeople gathered, scared and confused, from the ship. A single figure stepped down. She wore gold armor and a crown of light, the Queen. She walked through the crowd. Without fear, her guards stayed on the ship. She came alone. Her eyes found Araya standing at the center of the square. "You have changed," the Queen said calmly. "You speak freely now." Araya nodded. "Yes, I speak because silence no longer protects me." The Queen looked at Jonas, then back at Araya. "I came to speak, not to fight," she said. "Words first, then fire if needed." They sat across from each other in the town hall. The air was thick. Jonas sat nearby, silent but alert. The Queen said, "You stand before the galaxy now. People chant your name. You could start a war." Araya looked at her. "Or I could end one." The Queen raised her eyebrow. "And how would you do that?" Araya answered slowly, "By showing them a different way. One where bloodlines don't rule. One where truth matters more than power." The Queen laughed quietly. "You sound like your real mother." Araya's eyes widened. "You knew her?" The Queen looked out the window. "She was my sister by blood, but my rival by heart. She believed in kindness, and I believed in order." There was silence. Then the Queen stood. "I came here to ask one question." Something I don't understand, she turned to Jonas. You could have had a reward. You could have taken riches, land, ships. Why didn't you just leave after the deal? Why didn't you love her then, when it was easy? The town fell silent. All eyes turned to Jonas. He stood slowly, facing the queen. His voice was clear and calm. I didn't love her at first, because she was silent. Because she was locked inside herself, and love cannot be forced into a cage. He looked at Araya, but when I saw her pain, I saw her truth. And when I saw her truth, I saw something I had never seen before, someone who deserved everything. He took Araya's hand. And now, I love her not because of her past, but because of her future. The queen said nothing for a long time. Then she took off her crown and placed it on the table. I was wrong, she said. I thought silence would keep the past buried, but you turned it into a voice louder than war. She looked at Araya one last time. You are not my daughter, but you were once my light. She turned to leave. Her final words quiet but clear. I will return to my throne, and I will not come for you again. The ship left the sky. The people cheered. Araya stood in the center of the square, the morning sun touching her face. She was no longer a lost princess, no longer a prisoner, no longer a tool. She was something else now, a symbol, a hope, a future. That night, Jonas and Araya sat on the balcony. She leaned against his shoulder. Her voice was soft. Do you think it's over? Jonas looked at the stars. No, but I think the real fight is just beginning. She smiled. Then I'm glad I'm not alone. He kissed her forehead. You'll never be alone again. Far across the galaxy, on a hidden moon, a dark council sat around a stone table. They watched the queen's message. They listened to Jonas's words. A voice growled. They let her live? Another replied, yes, and now the people love her. A third whispered, then we must not only silence her, we must erase her in the shadows. War was waking, but Araya was ready now, and this time the galaxy would hear her roar.